Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Stuck at home during Corona season. Um, I wanted to make a video about another dream that I had. This dream I actually had on March 15th, which was 3 days ago. It was Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, which was the National Day of Prayer. I had two dreams that I specifically remember from that day, but I want to talk about one of them. Before I get into the dream, I was reminded recently, it was today, that I had the swine flu back in 2008 or 2009, one of those years. I don't know if you remember, the swine flu went around. I think it was called H1N1. And I was in Las Vegas for work. And for whatever reason, I had went on a fast before I went to Las Vegas. And it was very tempting because when I went to Las Vegas, I was asking myself, would I be able to continue my fast in the midst of all the gambling and the drinking and the free alcohol at that? And then I was going for work, and I was meeting with suppliers, and they were taking me out to dinner, and they were trying to like literally give me a feast, and I was the only one for my company. And I remember going to dinner, and I had fasted for like maybe 2 days prior to this in Vegas, and it was so weird being in Vegas with no like without doing anything sinful. Like it was so weird being in Las Vegas, and this was my first time in Vegas as an adult. But just walking around and watching everybody being sober in Vegas is like can you imagine? Everybody in the town has come to do something. I'm going to use the word simple. They're coming to have fun, but everybody's wasted. Everybody is intoxicated. Everybody is high on something. Everybody is there to just lose their mind and gamble and everything. But to be completely sober in the midst of that, it was like being in La La Land. It was like, get me out of here. All the lights just seemed so bright. Everything was so neon. In the middle of the day, I'm like, why do they have these bright lights on in the middle of the day? Because I was sober, and it was just like cuckoo crazy to me being there. But anyway, my third day there, my suppliers invited me to dinner. And just imagine the table was filled with like steak and lobster, and they had this big plate like this big filled with all like the best seafood and clams and king crab. It was like the temptation out of this world. And I ate all of it. I mean, I was supposed to be fasting, and I ate like I hadn't eaten in days because I hadn't. So I broke my fast. Well, that night or that next night, everybody in my company who had come on the trip, they were out in the casino having a good time. I had gotten sick out of nowhere. So I'm in my room. It's like 8 o'clock at night in Vegas. Nobody is in their room. Nobody is around to help me. I got sick, and I remember taking like some cough syrup or something. Lay down, and then all of a sudden I called my mom, and I was like, I feel like I can't breathe. And she's like, well, just try to get some rest. Shortly after that, I literally felt like I was suffocating, and I couldn't even pick up the phone and call 911. Couldn't even call 911. So I started blacking out. I crawl out of the bed. I crawl into the hallway, and I pass out in the hallway. I'm supposed to be telling you my dream. I don't know why I'm telling you all this story. I passed out in the hallway, and I want to say it was like Planet Hollywood or something. I don't remember the name of the hotel. And I'm in the hallway with all the rooms, so not in like the lobby area. And it's like 8 o'clock on a Friday night in Vegas. There's nobody that's going to come find me passed out in the hallway. There's nobody who's gonna come. Well, at that very moment where I was gasping for air, a maintenance man walks by, And he comes running up to me and he calls the paramedics. They come and give me oxygen and put me on the cart and roll me through the lobby of the hotel and into the ambulance. And my boss and my whole team are in the lobby and they see me. And it's a funny story. The paramedics start asking my boss what I OD'd on, like what I overdosed on. And my boss is like, what are you talking about? She was sick. She wasn't feeling well. And they're like, no, what did she take? What did she overdose on? And I'm like, they think this happens so often in Vegas that people pass out, that because so many people OD, that they were thinking that I OD'd on something. But anyway, they take me to the hospital and they're like, everything is fine. They kept me in the hospital. I want to say they kept me overnight. And they gave me fluids and then they sent me home. Well, the next day, my company puts me on a flight to go back home because I still was feeling like I had the flu times 10. And they put me in a wheelchair. They wheeled me through. They had a mask on me. Like, everybody in the airport was looking at me because this was during the swine flu. So everybody is just like, nobody wanted to sit next to me on the airplane. It was an absolute embarrassing nightmare. I get on the airplane. I still have on my wristbands from the hospital. And I start to feel the same way that I felt in the bed. I start to feel like I can't breathe. I start to hyperventilate. And I try to take some of the medicine that I had. And as I'm trying to take the medicine, I go up to the front. This is all like as we're taking off the airplane. We're like accelerating on the runway. I run up to the front. They see that I have wristbands on. And I'm very, very ill. So they lay me down on the floor. They put an oxygen mask on me. And the pilot and everybody's running around like, should we land the plane? Should we take off? Should we land the plane? Should we take off? I can't really recall. I believe we started to ascend into the air and then they went back down. So we were just taking off and accelerating and then they had to land right back down. Everybody on the plane was like, oh, like she made us have to go back around. Everybody was mad. So, I know some part of my story is missing because we must have had a layover because I think we had a layover in Utah. So this happened when I got on the second plane in Utah. I was all alone, and so they landed the plane in Utah. That's what happened. They took off, and then a short distance away from Vegas, they had to land the plane. So they did like an in-flight landing. This was like 12 years ago. So pardon me for some of the details being gray. But they landed the plane in Utah, had the paramedics come take me to the hospital again. When I got to the hospital, they tested me and they said I had the swine flu. They put me in the hospital, or they put me in somewhere overnight. And I just remember being so afraid, not because I thought I was going to die, but I was afraid because I was alone. I was in a city that I didn't know, and I was all alone, and I felt like I couldn't breathe, and there was nobody there to like watch me. But God, I survived that. I made it back home to Cincinnati where I was living, and I'm still here today. And that was one of those things that was almost as people were almost as fearful of it as they are the coronavirus. But I actually did suffer from the swine flu, contract the swine flu. But God protected my life because my purpose was not completed. So I'm still here today. And my confidence is the same in God. He's the same God that will bring me through. He'll bring you through. No matter what sickness or virus attacks your body, He is faithful. As long as your work on earth is still yet to be completed, then this is my belief. If you are living for God and you are actively pursuing your purpose and you are pursuing the will of God, then it's impossible for you to die a day too soon. Okay. So going into the dream, get into the dream. I had a dream on March 15th, and it was a dream about the coronavirus. It was a dream, I'll read it to you. I dreamed there was a tornado / hurricane coming to hit the whole world, and everyone was panicking and trying to find a place to hide. It was going to be powerful with high waters that would rise up and flood the city. I had foreknowledge and instruction about what to do. So in the dream, God had given me a warning that the tornado / hurricane was coming. And he had given me specific instructions for where to run to and where to hide. Everybody else was in a complete panic. So everywhere I looked, it was in a downtown area that I was. It was not Dallas. It was in a downtown area. And everywhere you look, masses of people were running and hiding. Running to hide, but they were all just everywhere. And then I had foreknowledge and instruction about what to do. Something told me to grab my friends, and my friend Alexis was with me. I remember her being in my dream. And I just texted her and asked her, where is she? Because she oscillates between Atlanta and New Jersey. So she just told me she's in New Jersey. I asked her because I was asking the Lord for wisdom, what city was I in? Because I didn't recognize the city. She was in New Jersey. So she's in New Jersey right now. So she was with me in the dream. And something told me to grab my friends that I was with and run into a building and go up to the top floor. Go up to the top floor because with the tornado and with the hurricane, it was going to be a flood. Now, there was a building right in front of me. There was a skyscraper. And all the way to the top of the building was glass. It was very modern. I want to say it had like black trim or metal trim, and it was glass. And it looked like it could have been 50, 100 stories high. I don't know. However tall those buildings are in a downtown area that are modern, brand new building, glass. And my first thought, I saw everybody running towards that building to run into the building because it was the tallest building that was closest to us. And I was afraid as I looked to run into that building. I didn't think that building would be able to withstand the force of a tornado and a hurricane, the water crashing against it. Because even though it was the highest building, glass is also the weakest in the force of a tornado. So I was afraid that the water would break the glass and the force of the wind would break the glass. And I knew that we needed something strong enough to withstand the force of the wind, but high enough to escape the flood. I also knew that if we went into that glass building, that we wouldn't have anything to hold on to. It was just almost a vacant building, like a brand new building. And on the top level, it was just completely open. So there was nothing to hold on to. As we entered the building, there was a lower building next to it, like touching it. And I said, let's go into this building. It was brick, but only had 9 stories. It was 9 stories tall. I went in with my friends and went into the elevator. I remember pushing the button that said the 9th floor. And we came out to an area where it was packed with people, almost like a rooftop terrace. It was packed with people trying to hide from the storm. But there was no shelter. Everybody was just out packed, almost like when you go to see like fireworks or something. Everybody is packed together. You're at a parade. Everybody's packed together. And the thing is, it's in the midst of the coronavirus where everybody is trying to get away from everybody, but everybody was running to the exact same places, so they were packed together. And everybody's trying, in the midst of being in this terrace, everybody's trying to get away from everybody, but there's nowhere to go. There's no shelter. And I looked up and I could see the dark clouds of the tornado forming in the sky. And everybody's panicked because now they know that it's imminent, that it's here, that it's right here, it's about to rain, but there's nowhere to hide. So then I pressed through the crowd and I was grabbing my friend's hands, asking them to follow me into an inside interior area. And it was like as I was leading them, I knew where I was going because I was following the instruction that I had received. As I got into the inside area, I'm pressing, and there's this narrow room where it was almost like a kitchen area, and I was pressing into this area, and right then, Beyonce is standing there in the middle of the area, in the middle of like the hallway in the kitchen, and it all turns into like a production set where everybody else around is panicking and chaos, and she's just standing there still as ever, like a producer of a TV show. And she's like, "Hey, we've selected you. You have been chosen. Like, you're the winner, basically, of this contest. Come on, it's time to put you on TV." And I'm like, do you not see everybody in the world panicking right now? What are you talking about? Why are you here, Beyonce? And so she's standing there, and I'm sitting there making small talk with her. How you like? How are you? How's everything going? How's your life? And
Mommy,
yes, babe.
How are two women here if their car is not here?
I think that's their car over there, the black car, I think.
Why did they come there for? To get a tattoo?
I'm not sure. Go ask them. So then, I lost my point, but basically Beyonce is there. She's asking me the most random questions, and then she's like, "Come, my parents want to talk to you. They've been dying to meet you." So then she shows me this screen. It looks like if you're like the producer of a TV show, when you're looking at the screens, it's airing everything. And her mom and her mom's new husband was on the screen, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're so happy to meet you. We just want to say hello." And I was just standing there like, "Hello, nice to meet you. Can I keep moving with this, with finding shelter?" And so that was the end of the dream. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to talk about this dream is because when I went to my investment property the other day, I think it was the same day of the dream or the next day after the dream, I looked in the floor of the property because the floor has not been nailed down, so you can look underneath the house, and it's been raining, and the forecast says that it's going to rain for the next 10 days straight. So it's been raining just for 2 days, and the water had already flooded up like 3 or 4 inches. And so it reminded me of the dream about the flood and the tornado, the great wall of water. I think I missed that part. It was going to be a tornado / hurricane. It's going to be lots of rain and tornado at the same time. And then it was going to rise up like a great wall of water and crash and flood the whole city. So that's why everybody was running. Because it was going to be a great flood and a tornado. All right, as you know, everybody has their kids for off school. And so that is why my son just came and interrupted my video. So there was this great wall of water that rose up, and it crashed down, or was going to crash down. And I had foreknowledge that this was going to happen. It was going to crash down and flood the city. At the same time, it was going to be a tornado. So there was going to be two disasters, natural disasters at the same time. And that was creating great fear. So in dreams, a tornado represents a warning of a coming attack and a call to pray. Hurricane represents sudden disaster. A flood represents trouble. And so I'm going to attempt to break down what I believe the dream means. And hopefully it will shine some light and reveal, it will bring peace to you. At least it'll bring instruction and warning. So I do not know if this represents a physical, literal flood. But what I will say is that, like the crash of the economy, my pastor also prophesied that there would be great floods in 2020. And he prophesied this on New Year's Eve, 2019. So he said there will be great floods in Asia, South America, and the United States, in places that have never flooded in 100 years, to push people out of their religion and to look up to God. Okay. Now, you don't know my pastor, but for those who do know that he is a very accurate prophet of the Lord. So I heed anything that he's told me specifically, just because I've never experienced in my life anyone more gifted and accurate with prophecy. And prophecy is just a revelation, a word from the Lord of the future of what will happen. It's not being a psychic. Nobody's charging you a fee to receive a prophecy. You don't go and get your tarot cards read or look in a crystal ball. But the Lord does reveal. He always reveals to his prophets what is to come before it happens, so that people can turn their hearts to God through prayer. They can, and also to prevent, for those who listen to the word of the prophet, to spare them. It's a warning. Here, listen to this. This is what is to come. So I'm warning you. There will be floods in 2020. And I went so far as to purchase flood insurance for my property, because when I went in and saw this much water, almost like this much water, it triggered me to remember the dream, the warning of the flood. And then it triggered me to remember the prophecy that happened 3 months ago. And so I went and I immediately said, let me buy flood insurance. My property is not in a 100-year floodplain. There are maps from FEMA that show 100-year floodplains. But his prophecy is very specific, because a 100-year floodplain is a real thing. So he said there will be floods in places that have not flooded in a 100-year flood in 100 years. So whenever you sell a property, if a property falls within a 100-year floodplain or a 500-year floodplain, you are required to purchase flood insurance. But anybody else outside of a 100-year floodplain is not required to purchase flood insurance. So most people don't realize that if they do not have an additional flood insurance policy, then if water penetrates the interior of their home without it coming from like a broken water heater that's busted, or leaking plumbing from under the house, or overflow of the bathtub, and if it's any other case that came from outside the house, such as rain or flooding, the insurance will not cover your property. So this is a spiritual lesson, and it's a real life warning. If you have a property in a low-lying area, go buy flood insurance for this year. It is not cheap, but it will save you potentially tens, if not tens of thousands of dollars of damage if your property were to flood. So go Google your address on a FEMA map, and if your address is near like a 500-year or 100-year floodplain, I encourage you to buy flood insurance. And here's the thing about flood insurance. It only goes into effect 30 days after you buy it. So if you buy it, if you go watch the news and you see, oh, it's going to flood, it's going to be heavy rain, it's too late. You can't get it. It won't go into effect until 30 days. So heed this warning now. If your property is like on the bottom of a hill, or it has a descent from the top of the property down towards your property, I would encourage you to buy flood insurance on your property. Back to the dream. I don't know if this dream represents a real life flood, but I will heed the warning, because what it did reveal was that there'll be dual problems at the same time. There'll be multiple uh, issues, national, world, global issues happening at the same time. So, in the midst of the coronavirus, that wasn't the only thing to be concerned about. The people were all trying to get away from each other because of the coronavirus, but at the same time, they were running from a tornado and a flood at the same time. Well, tornado and floods have opposite solutions. So half the people were running into the glass building, running to the highest place. They were going to what I would say is the penthouse of the building. But how many know that the penthouse of a glass building is the weakest point of the building? It's the worst place to be in a tornado, but it's the best place to be in a flood. So you want to be in the highest place in the building if it's going to flood, and you don't want to be there if it's a tornado. So then some people were running to the lowest lying, most interior space of buildings because they were trying to escape the tornado. Whenever there's a tornado, they'll say go into your innermost bedroom or your innermost closet on the lowest level. And that's the absolute worst place to go in a flood. So people were running using what I believe is what God is trying to show me. They were using conventional wisdom to escape the danger, to escape the threat. They were using what seems like normal conventional wisdom. But conventional wisdom will not save you when it comes to what is going on right now in the world. That's what the Lord was trying to say. That's the interpretation. Using conventional wisdom will not be good enough. It will not save you. Now is the time to seek the Lord for His wisdom. Every single person will need specific, godly, God-sent wisdom for how to maneuver the storm that is here and the storm that is to come. And so what is right for me might be running to the top of the building, and what is right for you might be running to the bottom of the building. But I can't call you and ask you what you're doing in the midst of corona, because that might not be what's best for me and mine. And so that is part of the interpretation. The second part is that I ran into a brick building, and it was not the obvious choice. It was against everything else in the downtown area. It was one of the lowest buildings. But the Lord showed me to run into the building and run to the 9th floor, run to the top level. When I got to the building, I remember pushing the 9th floor. And I don't really know the fullness of what number 9 means. The only thing that my dream dictionary shows me, I can't show that. YouTube won't let me show that. But number 9 means the fruit of the Spirit, the gifts of the Spirit, and the fruit of the womb. Meaning, whatever is pregnant in the Spirit has come full term and is about to be released. So everything that's been growing within me, perhaps within you, is full term. It's time for the promise to be delivered. That coincides with another one of the prophecies for the year 2020, which says, and I'm just now getting this as I'm reading this to you, as I'm explaining it to you. 2020 represents my due season. At the appointed time, this is the season of the due season, meaning whatever is pregnant is due. It's ready. It's due to be delivered. Time for delivery of the promise has arrived. So this is the year of the due season. So whatever it is that is pregnant in your womb, spiritually, is due to come out in this season. As I got up to the terrace area, everybody was pressed together. So everybody's trying to escape one another. But since everybody is using conventional wisdom, everybody ran to the same places. Everybody ran to the terrace. So now everybody's together, even though they're trying to get away from each other. That kind of reminds me of when the news is like, oh, we're shutting the city down, and everybody runs to the grocery store. Now everybody's afraid of coronavirus. They don't want to go anywhere. But because they're afraid that the city's getting shut down, they all run to the same exact place. So now you're in the store with 1,000 people at the same time. Everybody's touching the same groceries. Everybody's touching everything. And it's the absolute stupidest thing I've ever heard, because you're afraid to get the virus and you're afraid of what's going to happen. Yet everybody runs to the grocery store and is in the grocery store at the same exact time, which is probably the least sanitized or sanitary place that anybody should be. So in the dream, everybody's pressed together, but everybody's trying to get away from each other at the same time. But God had given me foreknowledge of where to go. So I went into a kitchen area. I'm going to look up here what kitchen means. It was like the back kitchen of a restaurant or like a hotel. So kitchen in this book says working hard to spiritually nourish others. So I was leading my friends into the kitchen of this building. I don't know if that signifies me trying to lead people to the truth or to spiritually nourish them in the midst of the panic. That could be what that means. And then Beyonce is there. She's there in the midst of the chaos. She's there, peaceful, talking to me about something random, and introducing me to her parents. Now, I do not honestly know why Beyonce was in my dream. Perhaps in your mind, this will completely negate the purpose of everything I've said before. You're like, oh, she ate too much pizza. That's why Beyonce is in her dream. But let me preface it with this. I often dream of celebrities. I often dream of Beyonce. I often dream of Rihanna. I often dream of people like that. And in my dream, they typically are telling me something personal, telling me something secretive that nobody in the world knows, or revealing something to me that I need to pray for them about. So I believe that God has called me to intercede for certain people that I will never meet. I may never meet. For example, the Lord gave me a word in prayer for Megan Good. And then I prayed for her. It's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. He showed me a business idea for her. He showed me the name of a product, right? And then that very day, my friend happened to go to a book signing in Atlanta. She called me out the blue and she was like, should I go? It's so random. It was for Devon Franklin. Well, I didn't put 2 and 2 together and realize that they're married. So she's just telling me I'm supposed to go to see this book signing, this speaking event with Devon Franklin. Should I go? I said, yeah, go. I mean, it sounds like a great topic. Go. Well, at that event, she ends up seeing Megan Good. So as she left the event, she called me and she's like, hey, girl, I just saw Megan Good. She didn't know that I had a dream about, not a dream. She didn't know that I had been in prayer for Megan Good. I've never met Megan Good. I don't have any personal interest in Megan Good's life. Well, at that particular, she was just outside the bookstore. I told her about the dream. I told her about the business idea, the product, and that I had been praying for her this morning. Well, she took it upon herself to go back to this event and to go stand in line and tell Megan Good about the business idea. This is the very day I had been up praying for her. The Lord had put her in my mind in a vision. Well, how would you believe that when she told Megan Good the business idea, Megan Good said this exact idea has been something I've been dreaming to do for about, I want to say 3 years. And she said her mother had actually given her the same exact name for the business, But she told her mother she wasn't sure if it would be good. She thought that it might be stupid. But when my friend told her, she said Megan Good just stood there and stared at her like she was a ghost. She could not believe what, and then she said she gave her a long hug. And it's lines of people waiting to get her book, to sign, to get an autograph. And she's hugging her like for dear life. And she just stared at her like she was a ghost. She couldn't believe it. That someone had come up to her and told her to encourage her in a business idea that she had been working on for 3 years and knew the exact name of the business. And as my friend turned to walk out the door, she said Megan didn't go back to signing autographs. She stood there and watched her walk out the door like a ghost. Now, so when I say I dream about celebrities, it doesn't matter if it's Beyonce. I don't care if it's Beyonce. I believe it has a purpose to it. I don't know what that means. I don't know why her mom, Tina, and her mom's husband was in the dream. But I know it will be revealed. Because that very day that I dreamed it, I went to church and the pastor actually brought up Beyonce in the sermon. He said, in the midst of the corona, how many of you all know that many people are worshiping other gods, but gods that can't save them? And then he brought up the fact that there's a church that worships Beyonce. It's called the Church of Beyonce. And it was random. It was just like a side note. He wasn't saying that Beyonce had anything to do with it. He wasn't saying that she's asking people to worship her. It was just an aside in the message. And then I was like, I just dreamed about her in my dream. That's not a coincidence. And then I look online and it says that Netflix is re-releasing Beyonce's Coachella performance in the midst of coronavirus because people are at home and they have nothing else to do. So we're just going to watch Beyonce and forget about the coronavirus. So in the midst of the chaos where everybody's running around, Beyonce was standing there just talking about something random. And re-releasing Homecoming in the middle of everybody's panic is random. It's like everybody's panicking. Let's sit down and let's watch Beyonce. I believe that there's more to be revealed about that. I do want to issue a warning. Be on the lookout for physical tornadoes and floods. I don't know for sure if this will happen, but watch the weather, especially in New Jersey, because that's where my friend was in the dream. That's where she is now, and she was in my dream. So just putting two and two together, that may have been God revealing a location where there will be floods. And then use godly wisdom, not conventional wisdom. Don't run and hide the same way that everybody else is trying to run and hide. In fact, none of these physical buildings that you're hiding in will save you from coronavirus. I mean, if you're checking your mail, the mailman could have coronavirus. If you're going to eat, the person who packaged your food could have coronavirus. Like literally, conventional wisdom will not save you. I encourage you to spend this time that you have at home developing a prayer life, developing time in your Bible. If you've never bought one, you can download the Bible app. If you don't like reading, you can let it play to you, play out loud. You can get on YouTube and watch ministers of the gospel, and it'll help alleviate the anxiety and the fear that you may feel, the concern. And I encourage you to do these things and know also in the dream that God had given me advanced knowledge of where to hide. He had given me instruction. So while everybody else was panicking, I had no panic. I was completely at peace. He led me through everybody else being lost, everybody else not having shelter. He led me into a hiding place, and he led everybody who was following me into that same hiding place. So thank you for staying tuned. I know this video was long. I know that I did not comb my hair or put on makeup, because why would I do that? I mean, everybody's boarded up in their homes, so I'm not putting on makeup for you guys. I love you. I hope that this has encouraged you. And I'll just pray a quick blessing. Lord, I just pray a blessing over every single person who's watching this video. I pray peace. I pray protection. I pray for healing. I pray that you would just eradicate all anxiety and fear. And I pray that you will begin to give them visions of themselves on the other side of this pandemic. Give them visions of themselves alive, living in their purpose. And that will give them hope to know that they still have not completed the assignment and there's more work to be done. And because of that, you are the one who will sustain their life and keep them through this. In Jesus' name, amen.